Admiral John Carter stood at the window of his office on the moon base Alpha. His eyes were fixed on the blue planet below. Earth looked peaceful from up here. But John knew better. Mankind was at war. He turned away from the view and walked to his desk. 3 screens showed the same terrible images. Smoke rose from burning buildings. Bodies lay in streets. These were pictures from New Hope, the 3rd human colony destroyed by aliens in 2 months. "Computer, show me the numbers again," John said. A soft voice answered, "Colony New Hope. Population 32,458. Survivors 1,209. Estimated time of attack 300 hours Earth Standard Time." John closed his eyes. Over 30,000 dead. Men, women, and children. All gone because these aliens, the Vraxians, refused to talk. Humans had tried to make contact 6 times. Each time, the aliens had fired without warning. His communication panel lit up. "Admiral Carter, the Council is waiting for you." "Tell them I'm on my way," he said, straightening his dark blue uniform. The walk to the Council chamber took 5 minutes. Guards saluted as he passed. Everyone looked worried. News of the attack had spread fast. The United Earth Council room was a large circle with 12 seats. Men and women from all parts of Earth sat waiting. Their faces were serious. At the center was President Mary Simmons, her gray hair pulled back tightly. "Admiral Carter," she said, "please share your report with the Council." John stepped forward. A map of human space appeared behind him. Red dots marked the destroyed colonies. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Council, the Vraxian attacks are getting worse. First, they hit our outpost on Proxima B. Then the mining station on Kepler 442 bits. Now an entire colony on New Hope. The pattern is clear. They are moving closer to our core worlds." Councilman Peter Lewis spoke up. "Admiral, have we learned anything new about these aliens? Why they attack us?" "No, sir. They use technology similar to ours, but more advanced in some ways. Their ships are faster. Their weapons are stronger. They look somewhat like large insects, based on the few bodies we've recovered. But they refuse all communication. When we send peace signals, they attack harder." "What about their home world?" asked Councilwoman Ellen Johnson. "We believe we found it. Our deep space probes show a planetary system with unusual energy signatures about 12 light years from New Hope." President Simmons leaned forward. "Admiral Carter, what do you recommend?" John took a deep breath. This moment would change human history. "Madam President, members of the Council, I believe we have only one option left. The Vraxians see our attempts at peace as weakness. We need to show them our strength, not just our military power, but our technological superiority." "You mean the Cronus device," said President Simmons quietly. The room went silent. Everyone knew about the device, a weapon so powerful it could change the flow of time itself. It had never been used, only tested in empty space far from any planets. "Yes, Madam President, I propose Operation Final Warning. We send our strongest fleet to Vraxian space. We demonstrate the device on an uninhabited moon or asteroid. We make it clear that we can wipe their entire civilization from history if they attack us again." Councilman Lewis stood up. "This is dangerous, Admiral. What if they see this as an act of war?" "With respect, sir, we are already at war, but the Vraxians don't see us as a real threat. That's why they keep attacking. We need to change their minds." President Simmons looked around the room. "The Admiral's recommendation is on the table. The Council will now vote." One by one, the Council members pressed buttons on their desks. The results appeared on the main screen. 10 yes, 2 no. "Operation Final Warning is approved," said President Simmons. "Admiral Carter, you will lead this mission. Choose your ships and crews. You leave in 48 hours. John Carter nodded. "Yes, Madam President." As he left the council chamber, he thought about the task ahead. Humanity had always been explorers, dreamers. Now they would become something else. A species that could not be ignored. A species that would not be destroyed. A species that had just issued its final warning. The main hangar of Moon Base Alpha buzzed with activity. Ships were being loaded with supplies. Crews rushed to their stations. In the center of it all stood the UES Thunderchild. It was the newest and most powerful warship humans had ever built. Admiral John Carter walked along the viewing platform. His eyes moved over the fleet that would carry out Operation Final Warning. 20 warships, 5 supply vessels, 1 special transport carrying the Cronus device. "Admiral, may I have a word?" John turned to see Dr. Alan Wilson approaching. The scientist was thin with kind eyes behind round glasses. He carried a tablet computer. "Of course, Doctor. What can I do for you?" "I finished my report on the Vraxians," said Dr. Wilson. "I thought you should see it before you leave." They moved to a quiet corner of the platform. Dr. Wilson showed John images of the aliens. The Vraxians looked like tall insects with 4 arms and hard shells. Their heads had large eyes that wrapped around like goggles. "From the bodies we recovered, I've learned some important things," said Dr. Wilson. "Their eyes can see light we can't. They might communicate using these light patterns. That could be why our radio messages never worked." John nodded. "Can we use this?" "Maybe. I've programmed special light signals into your ship's communication systems. It might help you talk to them." "Thank you, Doctor. This could make a difference." A voice came over the speakers. "Captain Susan Miller, please report to the UES Thunderchild." Dr. Wilson smiled. "You chose Captain Miller to lead the Thunderchild. Good choice." "The best choice," said John. "I need someone with both courage and wisdom for this mission." On the main floor of the hangar, Susan Miller walked toward her ship. Her red hair was cut short under her captain's cap. At 42, she had served in Earth's space fleet for 20 years. This would be her most important mission. The inside of the Thunderchild was clean and bright. Crew members stood at attention as Susan entered the bridge. "Captain on the bridge," called her first officer, Commander Paul Davis. "At ease," said Susan. She took her seat in the captain's chair. "Status report." Commander Davis handed her a tablet. "All systems ready, Captain. Crew is on board. We're waiting for Admiral Carter to arrive." Susan reviewed the ship information. The Thunderchild was built for both speed and in power. Its main weapon could destroy a small moon. But that wasn't why this ship was special. Hidden deep inside was the Cronus device, the most dangerous weapon humans had ever created. 1 hour later, Admiral Carter arrived on the bridge. The crew stood again. "Welcome aboard, Admiral," said Susan. "Thank you, Captain Miller. Is everything ready?" "Yes, sir. We can leave whenever you give the order." John looked around the bridge. Young faces watched him. They were nervous but determined. "Before we go," he said, "I want to be clear about our mission. We are not going to start a war. We are going to end one. The Vraxians must understand that humans will not be wiped out. We will show them our power, but we will also offer peace." He turned to Susan. "Captain Miller, if the demonstration doesn't work, if they attack again, you have permission to use the Cronus device on their military fleet, but not on their home world, never on civilians. Is that understood?" "Yes, Admiral. Perfectly clear." John nodded. "Then let's go make history, or unmake it, if necessary." Susan turned to her crew. "You heard the Admiral. Prepare for departure. Communication officer, send the signal to all ships in the fleet. Navigation, set course for the Vraxian home system." The great engines of the Thunderchild hummed to life. Outside, the other ships of the fleet began to move. As they left the hangar, Susan looked at the small blue Earth below them. They were traveling farther than any military fleet had gone before, to deliver a message that would change the course of human history. One more strike, and we wipe you from history. She hoped the Vraxians would listen. For everyone's sake. The UES Thunderchild moved through space at incredible speed. Stars streaked by like lines of light. It would take 3 weeks to reach Vraxian space. 3 weeks of waiting. 3 weeks of preparing. Captain Susan Miller sat in her private quarters. She looked at the small screen on her desk. It showed a rotating image of the Cronus device. The machine was not large. It looked like a silver box with glowing blue lines, but inside that box was technology that could change time itself. A soft knock came at her door. "Enter," she said. Lieutenant Frank Dawson stepped in. He was young with dark skin and serious eyes. As the ship's communications officer, it was his job to find a way to talk to the Vraxians. "Captain, I've been studying Dr. Wilson's notes on the Vraxian language," he said. "I think I'm making progress with the translation matrix." Susan nodded. "Show me." Frank placed a tablet on her desk. It displayed waves of light in different colors. The Vraxians don't use sound to talk. They use light patterns. Their eyes can see colors we can't even imagine. I've programmed our computers to convert their light signals into words we can understand. "Will it work?" asked Susan. Frank looked uncertain. "Maybe. It's never been tested with a live Vraxian, but it's our best chance to communicate with them." "Good work, Lieutenant. Keep at it. If we can talk to them, maybe we can avoid using the Cronus device." After Frank left, Susan returned to studying the device. She had seen the test videos. A small asteroid in deep space had been the target. When the device activated, the asteroid didn't explode. Instead, it aged millions of years in minutes. It crumbled to dust as time raced forward around it. The scientists called it temporal acceleration. Susan called it terrifying. She closed the file and went to the bridge. The crew worked quietly at their stations. On the main screen, a map showed their position. They were passing through the Orion sector, still far from Vraxian space. Commander Paul Davis approached her. "Captain, Admiral Carter has called a meeting with all ship commanders. It starts in 30 minutes. "Thank you, Commander. You have the bridge." In the communication room, large screens showed the faces of 20 ship captains. Admiral Carter spoke from his flagship, the UES Defender. "We will reach Vraxian space in 18 days, he said. "Intelligence suggests they have at least 40 warships protecting their home system. We need to be ready." Captain Joe Brown of the UES Horizon spoke up. "Admiral, what if they attack as soon as we arrive? Do we fight back?" "No," said John firmly. "Our mission is to deliver a warning, not start a battle. We will demonstrate the Cronus device on an uninhabited moon. If they attack before the demonstration, we retreat to a safe distance and try again." "And if they attack after?" asked Susan. John's face was grim. "Then we may have no choice but to use the device on their military fleet. But remember, our goal is peace through strength. We want the Vraxians to fear us enough to talk to us." After the meeting, Susan walked through the ship. The crew members she passed looked nervous. Everyone knew what was at stake. If this mission failed, Earth might be next on the Vraxian target list. In the ship's observation deck, Susan found Frank working alone. He had set up a makeshift lab with screens showing Vraxian light patterns. "Any progress?" she asked. Frank jumped slightly. "Captain, yes, I think so. I've identified patterns that might mean stop and danger. If we can broadcast these when we enter their space, they might not attack right away." Susan looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vraxians were waiting. Did they know humans were coming? Were they preparing for war? "Lieutenant, I need this translation matrix to work. Find a way to make them understand one simple message. We are not their enemy, but we will not be their victims either." Frank nodded. "I'll do my best, Captain." As Susan left the observation deck, she thought about the Cronus device waiting deep in the ship, a weapon that could erase time itself. She hoped they wouldn't have to use it, but she knew they would if they had to. The alarm sounded throughout the UES Thunderchild. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Captain Susan Miller ran to the bridge, her heart pounding. They had just entered the edge of Vraxian space. "Report," she ordered as she took her seat. Commander Paul Davis pointed to the main screen. Vraxian ships, Captain. Lots of them. Susan counted at least 50 alien vessels. They were shaped like arrowheads with glowing green engines. They moved in perfect formation toward the human fleet. "Admiral Carter is calling," said Lieutenant Frank Dawson from his communication station. John Carter's face appeared on the screen. "Captain Miller, this is it. The Vraxian fleet is twice as large as we expected. Are you ready?" "Yes, Admiral. The Cronus device is prepared. We can deploy on your command." "Good. Move to position Alpha and wait for my signal. Remember the plan." Susan turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Move us to the front of the fleet. Prepare the Cronus device for deployment." The Thunderchild's engines roared as it moved ahead of the other ships. Susan watched the alien fleet grow larger on the screen. They had not attacked yet. That was strange. "Lieutenant Dawson, any communication from the Vraxians?" Frank studied his monitors. "No, Captain. But there's something odd. They're sending out light pulses. Not weapons fire, just lights. Can you translate them?" "I'm trying. The matrix is working, but it's slow." Suddenly, Admiral Carter's voice came through the speakers. "All ships, hold position. The Vraxians have stopped advancing. This is our chance. Captain Miller, proceed with the demonstration." Susan took a deep breath. "Navigation, take us to the target moon. Weapons, prepare to deploy the Cronus device." The Thunderchild moved toward a small gray moon that orbited an empty gas giant. The alien ships watched but did not attack. "We're in position, Captain," said the navigation officer. Susan nodded. "Open a channel to the entire fleet and broadcast on all frequencies to the Vraxian ships." Frank's fingers moved quickly over his control panel. "Channel open, Captain." Susan stood up straight. "This is Captain Susan Miller of the United Earth ship Thunderchild. We are about to demonstrate a weapon called the Cronus device. Watch carefully. This is what will happen to your fleet if you attack human worlds again." She turned to her weapons officer. "Deploy the device." A small silver object launched from the Thunderchild. It floated toward the moon, glowing with blue light. When it touched the surface, nothing happened for a moment. Then the moon began to change. The gray surface turned brown. Cracks appeared. Mountains rose and fell as if thousands of years were passing in seconds. The whole moon seemed to age before their eyes. Pieces broke off and turned to dust. In just 5 minutes, the entire moon was gone, leaving only a cloud of particles. "Broadcast the message," ordered Susan. Frank activated the translation matrix. The Thunderchild sent out pulses of light in patterns that the Vraxians might understand. At the same time, Admiral Carter's voice boomed across all human channels. "People of Vrax, you have attacked our colonies without provocation. You have killed our people. We have now shown you the power we possess. We could use this weapon on your ships, your stations, even your homeworld. But we choose not to. We are not destroyers unless forced to be." The message continued in light pulses that the translation matrix had created. "One more strike against humanity, and we wipe you from history." Everyone on the bridge held their breath. The Vraxian ships remained motionless. Then Lieutenant Dawson called out, "Captain, the Vraxians are responding with light patterns. Can you translate?" Frank looked shocked as he read his screen. "I think so. It says, 'We receive your message. We will not attack. We wish to communicate.'" Susan could hardly believe it. "They want to talk." "Yes, Captain. For the first time, they want to talk." Admiral Carter's voice came through again. "Captain Miller, hold position. This might be a trap." But Susan saw something on her screen that gave her hope. The Vraxian ships were powering down their weapons, all of them at once. "Admiral," she said, "I think our message got through. The demonstration worked. They're afraid of the Cronus device." "Good," said John. Now let's see if they're ready to listen to reason. Lieutenant Frank Dawson had never worked so hard in his life. For 20 hours straight, he sat at his station on the bridge of the UES Thunderchild. His eyes burned from staring at screens filled with light patterns. His fingers were stiff from typing commands into the translation matrix. But he was making progress. "Captain," he called to Susan Miller, "I'm beginning to understand their language better. The Vraxians don't just use light. They use electromagnetic waves across the spectrum. What we thought were weapon scans in the past were actually attempts to talk to us." Susan walked over to his station. "Can you have a real conversation with them now?" "Not exactly. But I can send and receive simple messages. They keep asking about something called the Taurans. I think they believe we're connected to this other species somehow." Admiral John Carter joined them on the bridge. His flagship, the UES Defender, was holding position nearby. The Vraxian fleet remained at a distance, weapons powered down. "Lieutenant, can you ask them why they attacked our colonies?" John asked. Frank nodded and sent a series of light pulses toward the Vraxian ships. The bridge crew waited in silence. Minutes later, a response came back. "They say—" Frank paused, checking his translation. "They say they thought we were the vanguard of the Tauran Empire, returning to destroy them. The Taurans were their ancient enemy, apparently extinct for thousands of years." Susan looked confused. "They attacked us because they thought we were someone else." "It seems that way, Captain," said Frank. "They say the Taurans also used ships that traveled through the void between stars. When our first colony ships arrived in their territory, they'd assumed the worst." John shook his head. "All those lives lost because of a case of mistaken identity." Frank continued to receive signals. His eyes widened as he read the translation. "There's more, Admiral. The Vraxians say our demonstration of the Cronus device has terrified them because they believe time is sacred. Their religion forbids altering the river of time. They think we're wielding the power of their gods." Susan and John exchanged glances. This was unexpected. "Tell them we wish to meet face to face," ordered John. "We need to clear up this misunderstanding before more people die." As Frank sent the message, the sensors officer called out, "Captain, one of the Vraxian ships is moving toward us." Everyone tensed. Hands moved to weapon controls. "Hold your fire," Susan commanded. "Lieutenant Dawson, what are they saying?" Frank worked quickly. "They're sending. I think it's an acceptance. One ship with their leaders will dock with the Thunderchild for a meeting. They ask that we dim our time weapons as a sign of trust. They want us to power down the Cronus device," John translated. "Should we trust them?" Susan thought for a moment. "We came here to establish communication. This is our chance." "Agreed," said John. "Power down the device, but keep our normal weapons ready. Let's prepare a meeting room." 3 hours later, Susan stood in the Thunderchild's main conference room. Dr. Alan Wilson had been brought over from another ship to help with the meeting. His knowledge of Vraxian biology might prove useful. "Their ship is docking now," reported Commander Paul Davis over the intercom. Susan straightened her uniform. "Are you ready, Admiral?" John nodded. "As ready as we'll ever be for humanity's first peaceful meeting with the Vraxians." The door at the far end of the room slid open. 2 tall figures entered. They moved with a strange grace. Their bodies were covered in a hard shell that shimmered with changing colors. Their 4 arms were held out, showing they carried no weapons. Their large eyes swiveled to take in everyone in the room. Frank Dawson stood nearby with a device to help translate. He sent light patterns toward the aliens, explaining who each human was. The taller Vraxian stepped forward. Its body flashed with colors that Frank's device translated into words. "I am Ethlar Vu, voice of the Vraxian unity. We come to understand why the Tauran enemies now wield the power of time itself." John stepped forward. "We are not Taurans. We are humans from the planet Earth, and we have much to discuss." Captain Susan Miller had never imagined she would sit across from an alien at a conference table. Yet here she was, watching as HFY's body changed colors while it spoke. Lieutenant Frank Dawson's translation device worked hard to keep up. Our people have feared the return of the Taurans for 10,000 cycles, the Vraxian leader's lights translated. They nearly destroyed our civilization before they vanished. Admiral John Carter leaned forward. We are not Taurans. We are humans from Earth. We never knew about your people until you attacked our colonies. The two Vraxians flashed colors to each other, a private conversation. Then HFY responded. If you are not Taurans, why do you use similar ships? Why do you settle the same worlds they once claimed? Dr. Alan Wilson spoke up. We didn't know those worlds had been claimed before. We're new to space travel compared to your people. Susan noticed something odd about the way the Vraxians reacted to their words. There seemed to be a delay, as if they were struggling with a concept. Lieutenant Dawson, she said quietly, is the translation working correctly? Frank studied his device. I think so, Captain. But there's something strange in how they process our messages, almost as if. His eyes widened. Captain, I need to check something. He typed rapidly on his device, then looked up with amazement. It's their perception of time. The Vraxians don't experience time the way we do. They perceive it much faster. What feels like minutes to us might feel like hours to them. The second Vraxian, who had been quiet until now, flashed bright patterns. Frank translated. I am Zor Relmas, science voice of the Unity. Your understanding is correct. We experience the river of time at a different rate. This is why your messages seem so slow to us, and ours so fast to you. Dr. Wilson nodded with excitement. That explains so much. When our colony ships arrived in their space, the Vraxians might have been watching us for what seemed like months to them before deciding we were a threat. Admiral Carter looked troubled. And our demonstration of the Cronus device, a weapon that accelerates time, must have seemed especially horrifying to beings who already experience time more quickly than we do. HFY's colors pulsed rapidly. Your time weapon violates all that is sacred, yet you used it only on an empty rock, not on our ships or worlds. This confused us. Taurans would have struck without mercy. Susan saw an opening. We don't want to destroy your people. We came here to end the attacks on our colonies, not to start a war. But you threatened to erase us from history, Zor Relmas pointed out. Only if you continued to attack us, John explained. We were defending ourselves. The Vraxians conferred again with rapid color changes. Finally, HFY turned back to the humans. We have made a grave error. In our fear of the Taurans' return, we attacked an innocent species. Many lives have been lost because we did not take time to understand. Susan felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Then we can stop fighting. We can have peace. Not so simple, flashed HFY. Our people have been taught for generations that visitors from beyond are enemies, and your people have suffered greatly at our hands. There is much distrust to overcome. Admiral Carter stood up. Then let's start now. I propose a treaty between our worlds. No more attacks. Open communication. Perhaps even cooperation in the future. And the time weapon? Asked Zor Relmas. John's face was serious. The Cronus device will return to Earth. It will not be used against your people as long as peace holds. The two Vraxians' colors shifted to a soft blue that the humans had not seen before. Frank checked his translation. I think that means agreement or perhaps relief. HFY rose on its four back legs. We will take your words to the Unity Council. This may be the beginning of understanding between our kinds. As the meeting ended, Susan watched the Vraxians leave. She turned to Admiral Carter. Do you think this will work? Can we really have peace after all that's happened? John looked thoughtful. I'm not sure. But it's a better outcome than I dared hope for when we started this mission. We came to deliver a warning. Instead, we might have found a new beginning. 1 week after the first meeting, Admiral John Carter stood in a grand hall on the Vraxian space station. The curved walls glowed with soft light in patterns that seemed to tell stories. Captain Susan Miller stood beside him, along with Lieutenant Frank Dawson and Dr. Alan Wilson. They were the first humans to set foot on a Vraxian structure. Across from them, 12 Vraxian leaders formed a half-circle. Their shell bodies flashed with colors as they debated. Frank's translation device worked better now, allowing the humans to understand most of what was said. "The human proposal is dangerous," flashed one Vraxian, with red stripes on its shell. "They have attacked the sacred river of time itself. How can we trust them?" "We attacked them first," answered Ethlar Vu, who had become the main supporter of peace with humans. "They defended themselves as any species would." The debate continued for what seemed like hours to the humans. Susan knew that for the Vraxians, who experienced time differently, this might feel like days of discussion. Finally, the oldest Vraxian in the center raised all 4 arms. The room went silent. "I am Kel Mardun, supreme voice of the unity," it flashed slowly. "We have heard all arguments. The humans did not know our ways. We did not know theirs. Both sides have lost many lives. It is time to end this conflict." John stepped forward. "We agree. That's why we've prepared this treaty." Frank activated a device that projected the treaty text in both human language and Vraxian light patterns. The main points were simple. Humans would not settle any more worlds near Vraxian space without permission. The Vraxians would stop all attacks on human colonies. Both sides would share knowledge and warning systems to prevent future misunderstandings. Kel Mardun studied the treaty. "And the time weapon. What of this terrible device?" "The Crumbus device will return to Earth," John promised. "It will be locked away. We will not use it unless we face extinction as a species." The Vraxian leaders conferred. Then Kel Mardun approached a flat stone table in the center of the room. "We accept these terms. Let us mark this historic moment." The Vraxian pressed one arm against the table. A pattern of light flowed from its body into the stone, creating a permanent record. John stepped forward and signed his name on a paper document, then placed it on the table as well. "In the name of humanity, I sign this treaty of peace between our worlds." As the ceremony ended, Ethlar Vu approached Susan. "Captain Miller, your quick thinking during our first meeting helped prevent more bloodshed. The Unity Council has a request for you." Susan was surprised. "What kind of request?" "We propose a program of exchange. Vraxian scientists to visit human ships, and human diplomats to visit our worlds. We must learn about each other to prevent future mistakes." Susan smiled. "That's an excellent idea. I'd be happy to help organize such an exchange." "Then you would be willing to serve as the first human ambassador to Vraxian space?" Susan looked at Admiral Carter, who nodded his approval. "It would be an honor," she said. Later, as the human delegation prepared to return to their ships, John pulled Susan aside. "Captain Miller, are you sure about this? Staying here as an ambassador will be challenging. You'll be away from Earth for at least a year." Susan looked around at the Vraxian station. Just days ago, these aliens had been their greatest enemy. Now they were potential allies. "Someone needs to make sure this peace lasts, Admiral. I've seen enough war to know we should give everything for a chance at understanding." John nodded. "Very well. The Thunderchild will remain in orbit as your transport and protection. Commander Davis will serve as acting captain. And remember, if there's any sign of trouble—" "I know," Susan said. "One call, and the fleet returns. But I don't think that will be necessary. The Vraxians are different from us in many ways, but I believe they want peace as much as we do." As John prepared to leave, he looked back at the treaty on the stone table. Human writing next to alien light patterns. 2 species finding a way forward after nearly destroying each other. "Good luck, Ambassador Miller," he said. "You're making history today." 5 years had passed since the treaty between humans and Vraxians. So much had changed in that time. Admiral Susan Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, the first ship built by both species working together. It was larger than any previous human vessel, with technology that combined the best of both worlds. The curved walls contained panels that flashed with Vraxian light signals, while human-style screens showed data in words and numbers. The crew was mixed as well. Humans worked beside Vraxians at every station. They had learned to understand each other's time perception. Special translator devices helped them communicate without delay. "Admiral, we're receiving a signal from the border outpost," said Lieutenant Greg Howard, her communications officer. "They've detected something unusual." Susan turned to her first officer, a Vraxian named Zur Kelvos. "What do you think? Should we investigate?" Zur Kelvos flashed colors that everyone on the bridge could now understand. "The signal comes from beyond known space. Neither human nor Vraxian ships have traveled that far. It could be important." Susan nodded. "Set course for the border outpost. Maximum speed." As the Harmony changed direction, Susan thought about how far they had come. After serving 3 years as ambassador to the Vraxians, she had been promoted to admiral and given command of this special ship. Her mission was to patrol the borders of both territories and continue building trust between the species. There had been problems along the way. Some humans still feared the Vraxians. Some Vraxians still believed humans were connected to their ancient enemies, the Taurans. But each year, relations improved. The Harmony reached the border outpost in 6 hours. It was a joint station, shaped like a wheel with spokes leading to a central hub. Half was built to human specifications, half to Vraxian needs. Station Commander Juan Rodriguez met them in the control room. "Admiral Miller, we picked up this signal 2 days ago. It's not like anything we've seen before." He played the recording. A series of regular pulses, not random but clearly designed by an intelligent mind. Susan felt a chill. "Have you sent a response?" "No, Admiral. We followed protocol and waited for your arrival." Zur Kelvos studied the signal pattern. "It is not Vraxian, not human, not Tauran, based on our ancient records. This is someone new." Susan thought carefully. 5 years ago, humans and Vraxians had been at war because of fear and misunderstanding. They had nearly destroyed each other before learning to communicate. She would not make the same mistake with whoever sent this signal. "Prepare a response," she ordered. "Use basic mathematical sequences that any advanced species would recognize. Include images of humans and Vraxians together in peace. Make it clear we wish to communicate, not fight." As her crew worked on the message, Susan went to her private office on the station. On her desk sat a small box containing a model of the Cronus device. The real weapon was locked in a vault on Earth, hopefully never to be used again. Her computer chimed. A call from Earth. She pressed a button, and the face of retired Admiral John Carter appeared. "Susan, good to see you. How's life on the frontier?" She smiled. "Interesting as always, John. We've just detected a signal from beyond known space, possibly a new species." John's face grew serious. "Be careful, Susan. Remember what happened last time." "I haven't forgotten. That's why we're sending a clear message of peace first. We've learned from our mistakes." John nodded. "I trust your judgment. Earth Council is behind you, and so are the Vraxians. Keep me informed." After the call ended, Susan returned to the control room. Her message was ready to send. "Let's hope they're friendly," said Commander Rodriguez. Susan watched as the signal transmitted toward the unknown source. "And if they're not, we'll face them together. Humans and Vraxians, united." Zur Kelvos moved to stand beside her. "The old saying among my people seems appropriate. The river of time brings new travelers to all shores." Susan nodded. "And we'll be ready to greet them, whoever they are." As the Harmony's powerful transmitters sent their message of peace into the unknown, Susan thought about how far humanity had come. Once, they had threatened to wipe another species from history. Now they reached out with open hands, having learned that understanding was stronger than fear. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, they would face it not alone, but with allies by their side.